Last night, I pretended to be asleep on the couch. My wife thought I was out cold. My brother showed up with a six-pack, sat next to her, and whispered, "He actually thinks we're just close friends. Can you believe that?" She burst out laughing. "He's so pathetic. He even bragged to me that he trusts you like a brother." Then she said, "Should we tell him?" He said, "No. Let him keep playing house while we have our fun." Next day, they got a surprise they'll never forget. Alright, so I've never posted anything like this before, but I actually don't care anymore if this sounds crazy or whatever. I just need to get this out, and TBH, I need to see what other people think because I feel like I've been gaslit for months by people I literally trusted with my life. So yeah, I'm Barry. I'm 32, and this is probably the wildest week of my life and I'm only halfway through it. If you'd told me last month I'd be writing this, I would have laughed at you. But here we are anyway. So stuff started feeling off maybe 2 months ago. Not movie off, not she changed her hair and started hiding her phone off, just like random stuff that kept building up. My wife, Ramona, suddenly super invested in my brother's new business thing, texting him a lot, meeting up to help with the paperwork or check out the space, whatever. Stuff she never cared about before. My brother, Leroy, is 2 years younger, and I always thought he was kind of the wild card in the family, but like, not evil, just not super reliable. He's always been jealous, I guess, but it was mostly harmless growing up, just siblings. Anyway, he's been trying to get this bar-restaurant mashup running forever. Always looking for a shortcut, always wanting someone to spot him, you know the type. I didn't want to co-sign the business loan at first, but Ramona wouldn't drop it. And she was like, "He's family, we help each other." And I was tired and just wanted everyone to chill for 5 minutes. So I gave in. Whatever. So now they're texting, joking, sharing inside jokes at dinner, sending each other memes. I only know because sometimes she'd laugh and show me like, "Look what Leroy sent, LOL." So I'm thinking, maybe they're just getting along for once. Maybe it's not that deep. But then she starts getting snappy with me, like I'm the annoying one, like I'm always the last to know stuff. And Leroy is suddenly around all the time, always with some excuse about checking on paperwork or, "I just need to talk to Ramona about the menu." Okay, bro, whatever. Fast forward to last night. I come home from a long day. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep and way too much caffeine. Just want to crash on the couch and doom scroll. I pass out early, don't even make it to the bedroom. I'm not out. Just kind of in that half-awake, half-dead state where you hear everything but you can't move because you're just done. I hear them come in. Him with that stupid six-pack. Of course, it's the cheap stuff. Classic Leroy. And they think I'm dead to the world. I'm not. I'm just listening. And at first it's just dumb jokes, but then it gets real weird. Real fast. Leroy's voice drops. He's sitting way too close to Ramona and he goes, "He actually thinks we're just close friends. Can you believe that?" And she snorts, like actually snorts, and says, "He's so pathetic he even bragged that he trusts you like a brother." Then she adds, "Should we tell him?" And Leroy goes, "Nah, let him keep playing house while we have our fun." They're whisper laughing at this point, and I'm just lying there, phone face down, hands clenched, wishing I could make myself get up and just throw both of them out. But I don't. Not yet. I don't even want to give them the satisfaction. I just keep listening. And it's like everything clicks into place. The weird glances, the sudden business emergencies, the way they both started treating me like a background character in my own house. So I wait. I pretend to snore a little, just so they don't suspect anything. I hear them get up, talking about, "Let's go for a walk." And they leave me there. I hear the door close, and that's when I just sit up and stare at the ceiling. And I swear, if I had a baseball bat in my hand, I'd have put a hole in the wall. I don't even know how long I sit there just staring, going over every conversation I ever had with either of them. You start to realize all the times they made you feel like you were the weird one for asking questions, all the times Ramona brushed me off for business stuff. I remember one time last week she snapped at me because I didn't get how hard Leroy was working, and I just let it go, like an idiot. My own brother, in my house, eating my food, drinking my beer, and laughing at me behind my back. I should have seen it. I probably did see it, but I didn't want to believe it. Classic Barry, always giving people the benefit of the doubt, always letting family slide even when he knows better. I guess I thought if I just played along, things would work themselves out. Turns out, the only thing working itself out was me, getting clowned by the two people I trusted most. So yeah, I didn't sleep at all. I just scrolled through old text messages, checked the door cam footage, because yeah, I'm paranoid enough to have a camera facing the door thanks to living in this city, and started piecing together the timeline. I saw them leave together, laughing, not even trying to hide it. I saw Ramona come back alone, looking annoyed. Didn't even check to see if I was awake, just went straight to the bedroom and slammed the door. I almost got up and packed her stuff right then, but I wanted to do it right. This morning, everything's weirdly normal. Ramona's making coffee like nothing happened, scrolling through her phone, acting like we didn't all just cross a line you can't come back from. Leroy texts me about some urgent business thing. Classic timing. I answer him with one word, just to keep up the act. I tell Ramona I'm working from home today. She barely reacts. I guess she thinks I'm just too dumb to know what's going on. Honestly, I'm not even sad. I'm just angry. Not the movie kind of angry where you throw a fit and break stuff. Just the kind that sits in your stomach and makes you want to burn down the whole world. I'm not letting them get away with it. I'm not just gonna leave and let them play house in my apartment while I go crash on someone's couch like a chump. I start making a list. What's hers? What's mine? What's joint? I open the laptop and start looking up every document, every receipt, every little thing that could come back to bite me. I check the agreement for my brother's business and I see it right there in black and white. I'm the majority owner, 51%. Leroy never even bothered to read the fine print. Classic. I remember Ramona pushing me to sign, saying it's just paperwork. And Leroy needs this. I told her I'd only do it if my lawyer drew up the docs. And she rolled her eyes and told me I was being extra. Turns out, being extra just saved my ass. I'm not going to play the victim here. I'm not letting them turn me into that guy who gets walked all over and then just disappears. If they want to treat me like an idiot, fine. But they're about to see just how much I've actually been paying attention. I text my dad just to check in. He's always been skeptical of Leroy, never trusted him with anything bigger than a sandwich. And I can already hear the "I told you so" coming. Not ready to deal with it yet, but at least I know someone's on my side. I text my buddy Ryan too. He's not the advice type, but he's good for a couch if things go nuclear. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I know I'm not just going to sit here and let them laugh at me. If they want to play games, I can play too. I'm not scared of a fight. I'm not scared of losing people who treat me like crap. They want to see what happens when I stop playing nice. Fine. Game on. I'll update when I've got something to show for it. Trust me, it's coming. Update 1. All right. So here's the update. Like I said, if you read my last post, then you know the whole asleep on the couch, listening to my wife and brother clown me in my own house thing. I said game on, and I meant it. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm not looking for advice. I'm just laying out what happened because honestly, I still can't believe how fast everything went sideways once I started actually doing something. So first thing, I barely slept that night. I just kept listing stuff in my head, flipping through old messages, grabbing every charger, receipt, random paper I could find before anyone woke up. Sun wasn't even up yet, and I'm digging through the junk drawer for that old thumb drive I haven't used in forever. But hey, backup is backup. I made copies of everything. Doorcam clips. Yeah, timestamps and all. All our texts, emails where my loving wife is pushing me to help Leroy. All the little things that seemed like nothing at the time. I even screen recorded the bank app showing every transfer for the last year. Not gonna get caught out here with, "Oh, you're just overreacting," or "It's not what it looks like." Nah, this is receipts on receipts. I kept checking the door, expecting Ramona to get up and start asking why I'm making so much noise. But she just scrolled through her phone in bed and let me be. She's gotten used to me doing boring paperwork stuff, I guess. I heard her call her mom, and it was weirdly cheerful, like not a care in the world. It actually pissed me off more if I'm being real. Leroy texted around 9 a.m., acting like nothing happened, asking if I could cover a small supplier bill for him because his liquidity is tight. He loves using business words he doesn't understand. I just replied with a thumbs up because I didn't want him to get suspicious. I needed the day and I needed him out of the way. I put on some music, not even my regular playlist, just whatever was loud enough in my headphones to drown out the nonsense in my head, and started lining up all the stuff I'd need. I checked the business partnership agreement for the 100th time and yeah, right there, clear as day. I'm the majority stakeholder, 51%. I can shut it down, open new accounts, fire staff, whatever. Leroy never read anything past the first page, just signed and went off to celebrate with another round of beers. I almost laughed, not gonna lie. I texted my lawyer, not some big shot, just a guy I know from high school who's helped me with contracts before. Don't let anyone tell you it's not worth having a decent lawyer in your contacts. I told him to start divorce paperwork, hard and fast, and to use the recording and prenup update. I didn't want any "maybe we can talk this out" drama. I want it airtight. No loopholes. No but he said, she said. I sent him the files, the video, the agreement, everything. I checked the bank account next. Turns out that joint savings account, only my name on it. I moved every cent into a new one, locked down with two-factor different passwords, the works. I know this sounds petty, but I'm not about to fund their little fun while I'm out here picking up the pieces. And before anyone comes at me, all of it's legal. I checked with my guy first. If she wants to contest it, she can try. But with what I've got, good luck. I started making piles in the living room. One for her stuff, one for stuff I paid for, one for stuff I didn't care about. I found her old laptop she never uses and boxed it up. Same with her makeup hoard. Seriously, how does one person need 4 drawers of face paint? I started sticking notes on things. Yeah, I know it's petty, but after hearing your wife call you pathetic in your own house, petty feels like therapy. Liar. Gold digger. Hope it was worth it. I wrote out everyone, slapped it on her bags, and didn't even care if the sticky notes fell off. I wanted her to see it. Ramona finally walked in while I was taping up boxes. She goes, "What are you doing?" all cold and annoyed. I told her I was just clearing out clutter. She rolled her eyes, muttered something about me being so dramatic, and went back to scrolling on her phone. Not even a hint of guilt. I almost lost it right there, but I had to finish the setup. I called the bank next, told them I was the majority owner on the business account, gave them the papers, asked them to freeze everything immediately. Woman on the phone asked 3 times if I was sure, and I said absolutely. She said there'd be a hold on outgoing payments, no new charges, nothing until further notice. I could almost hear Leroy's meltdown from across town. I messaged the landlord for the bar restaurant spot, told him I was terminating the lease under my authority. He sounded annoyed, but honestly, he probably expected this with how flaky my brother's been. I said I'd send the paperwork that day. I hit up the supplier too, explained the restructuring, and told them to direct all current debts to the minority partner, Leroy. I didn't even care if it sounded harsh, that's what the contract said, and I'm not eating his debt. It's weird, the more I did, the calmer I got. Not zen calm, just like focused. Like I'd been waiting months to finally do something real. I kept picturing the two of them laughing while I was right there, and every time I started to slow down, I just remembered that. My phone kept buzzing. First Leroy, then Ramona. She started getting snippy, asking why I was acting weird. What's with the boxes? Why is the bank app not working? Did I mess up something with the business? I just kept it short. Told her to call her own bank if she had questions. She started yelling, and at one point she actually slapped one of the boxes off the table, and I just picked it up and put it right back. I told her, calm, but not soft. She should probably start packing if she wanted to keep her stuff from ending up in the trash. She tried to push past me to get her charger, and I just stepped in front and told her no. We ended up in a short shoving match, nothing wild, just her trying to act tough and me not budging. She called me a coward. I told her to call whoever she wanted and slammed the bedroom door behind me. I could hear her on the phone with someone after. Probably her mom again, voice all choked up. But I don't care. You don't get to clown me and then play victim when you get caught. I ordered lunch, sat in the kitchen eating cold takeout while I watched the door cam feed on my phone. I saw Leroy's car pull up, him looking pissed, walking up and knocking on the door. I ignored. He tried calling. I let it go to voicemail. He texted, blowing up my phone with, "Bro, what's going on?" and, "Did you mess up the account?" I just sent him a screenshot of the contract with my name at the top and nothing else. He tried the door again, yelling through the mail slot, but I just cranked up the music and waited him out. I started moving all of Ramona's stuff into black contractor bags, carrying them to the living room window. She tried to grab a couple and I told her to back off. She slapped my arm. I pushed her hand away and told her again, "This is my place. You're leaving, not the other way around." At that point, she started crying, but I'm not gonna lie, I didn't feel anything but relief. My dad called in the middle of all this, says he heard from my aunt, classic family grapevine, nothing is ever private, wanted to know if the rumors were true. I told him straight up, yeah, Leroy and Ramona stabbed me in the back, but I'm handling it. He just sighed and said he'd be around if I needed anything. Not, "I told you so," just dad stuff. I hung up without saying much else. The last thing I did before calling it a day was send my lawyer all the updated files, proof of the prenup recording, the business docs, everything with timestamps. I told him to go nuclear, no warning, no letting them get their story together. He called back and said, "You sure?" And I said, "Do it." So yeah, that's where I'm at now. House is a mess, phone is blowing up. But for once, I don't feel like I'm the one getting clowned. I know it's not over yet, not by a long shot. Ramona's still here for now. Leroy's pacing around outside like a lost dog. But tomorrow? Tomorrow's when it all lands. I'm not backing down. Next update coming soon. You want to see how people act when they realize you're not playing? Stay tuned. Update 2. So if you're here from the last 2 posts, yeah, this is where it gets ugly. It's not some Hollywood thing where the guy just moves out and lets everyone heal or whatever. Nah, I wanted them to feel it. Honestly, I'm surprised how much of it was just basic paperwork and following through on stuff everyone always says they'll do, but never actually does. Anyway, buckle in. First thing, the morning after I boxed all Ramona's stuff, I get up to her already making calls, pacing the kitchen in those ugly slippers she always wears. She's talking fast, real clipped, dropping words like access issue and bank mistake. I don't say a word, just pour my coffee and start moving trash bags to the front door. She tries blocking me, and I just keep walking. I'm not playing nice anymore. I'm not asking for space. I'm done. She's got her phone out, probably texting Leroy, probably thinking I'm just having a moment. Nah, this is permanent. Leroy, meanwhile, is blowing up my phone with a level of desperation I haven't seen from him since he crashed my old car and tried to hide it from our parents. Like 10 missed calls in an hour. And then he starts sending voice notes. All whiny, stuff about, bro, you need to fix this. And I got payroll coming up. You can't do this to me. I just ignore it. I go through my emails while I eat, just normal stuff. But I CC my lawyer on every single thing. I want a paper trail so deep Leroy could swim in it. Around 11 a.m., I get a call from the landlord of the restaurant space, sounding annoyed but not surprised. He's like, so you're terminating the lease? And I say, yeah, effective immediately. I'm the majority. Here's the doc. End of story. He sighs, says he'll start the process, and asks if Leroy knows yet. I say, he will, and hang up. While all this is happening, Ramona is still in the kitchen trying to act casual, but her eyes keep darting to my phone. She finally snaps and says, what did you do to the account? I tell her flat. I moved my money. It's all legal. Check the paperwork. She gets red, actually throws a mug at the sink, misses, shatters everywhere, and tries to slap my arm when I walk by. I push her hand away, tell her to calm down before she breaks something else. She says I'm being cruel. I just laugh. Honestly, I haven't felt this clear in years. Then my phone blows up again. This time it's the supplier for the restaurant, asking what the hell is going on and who's paying the outstanding invoices. I say, as of today, all debts go to the minority partner. Check the contract. Good luck. Dude starts arguing, but I just hang up. Not my circus, not my monkey. Leroy's problem now. Ramona is now on the phone with her mom, loud enough for the neighbors to probably hear, telling her I'm ruining her life and stealing everything. I actually hear her mom on speaker, telling her to come home if she needs to. I don't care. I open the window and start tossing the first of her bags onto the curb. She shrieks, tries to pull one back in, but I yank it away and tell her she should probably start calling an Uber. She slaps my chest. I barely even feel it, and she storms out, slamming the door so hard a picture falls off the wall. Whatever. Then, just as I'm taping up the last box, Leroy shows up, all red-faced, sweating, banging on the door like he owns the place. I let him in because, honestly, I want to see his face. He storms in, tries to chest bump me, gets all up in my face shouting about how I'm ruining everything, and you can't just freeze the account. That's not how this works. I tell him, it's in the contract. You signed it. Maybe you should have read it. He tries to shove me. I shove him right back. He stumbles onto the couch and starts yelling for Ramona. She comes out of the bedroom, mascara smeared, phone clutched like it's gonna save her, and just starts screaming at both of us. I tell them both to get out. Leroy starts pacing, calling me a traitor, a snake, whatever, and I just keep repeating, you did this, not me. He actually tries to throw a punch, like a real one, but he's never been good at that, so it just glances off my shoulder and I push him right back toward the door. I slam it behind him, lock it, and turn up the music loud enough to drown out their arguing in the hallway. I text my dad, just a heads up so he doesn't hear about it from someone else. He texts back, Leroy is an idiot, but you did what you had to. Classic dad, zero sugarcoating. I know my mom's gonna call later with a million questions, but I'll deal with that when it comes. The rest of the day is just damage control. I get 4 calls from the bank confirming I want the freeze to stay. I do. I get another email from the landlord. Lease is done. And Leroy's officially on the hook for the last 2 months of rent. He tries to call again. I block his number. Ramona's blowing up group chats with Barry's lost his mind, but nobody's buying it, especially not after I drop screenshots in a couple of family chats showing her and Leroy's messages. No context, just facts. My uncle actually messages me good for you. I guess you never really know who's watching. By that night, it's pouring rain. I'm sitting in my living room with the window cracked, watching the door cam feed on my phone. Leroy and Ramona are outside, soaked, yelling up at my window like they're in some soap opera. Neighbors are peeking out. One guy across the street is literally filming with his phone. I could go out and yell, but I don't. I just watch. At one point, Ramona actually tries to buzz the apartment next door and the neighbor tells her to get lost. Leroy is kicking at the curb, screaming about his money and his business. I text my lawyer a thumbs up and sit back. The fallout starts quick. Next morning, I get 3 emails from suppliers, 2 from the landlord, 1 from a cousin who heard about the drama from his mom. Leroy's business is officially dead in the water, and apparently he's already racked up a couple grand in unpaid invoices. Ramona's card gets declined at the pharmacy. I know because she texts me a wall of insults, then calls me a thief. I just reply with a screenshot of her own prenup update, the one she signed, literally on video. agreeing that cheating equals forfeiting asset claims. She goes radio silent. My dad calls again, asks if I'm okay. I tell him, yeah, it's weird, but I'm good. He says Leroy's staying at my aunt's place, but nobody's really talking to him. I don't say much back. I'm not looking for sympathy, I just want them gone. The best part? The door cam footage. I replay it later. Leroy's face when he realizes he can't get in. Ramona's meltdown, the bags on the curb. There's this one shot where the neighbor across the street gives me a slow clap from his window. And honestly, that's the only applause I've ever wanted. So yeah, they thought I'd just roll over. Instead, I burned it all down. Legally, financially, socially. They lost the money, the business, the apartment, and each other. I'm not saying I feel nothing. I feel a lot. But mostly I feel done. One more update coming. Trust me, it's not over yet. Final update. So I guess this is it. Not sure if anyone's still following this whole saga, but I promised the last update. And honestly, I'm writing this out partly for all the people who DM'd me saying, don't let them off easy. And partly because I just want to remember what it feels like to actually stand up for myself for once. Instead of just letting people walk all over me, the weirdest thing is how fast it all just settles. Like, you expect fireworks or the world to explode or something. But nah, mostly it's just awkward silences, slammed doors, and a lot of people suddenly realizing they can't just talk their way out of what they did. That's what happened here. At least so after that night with Ramona and Leroy outside my apartment, screaming like maniacs. And Engiel, the guy filming across the street, still cracks me up. Never met him, but I owe him a beer. I did exactly what I said I'd do. I didn't let them back in. Not for closure. Not for one last talk. Nothing. I changed the locks that night. I put all the door cam clips in a folder on my laptop just in case. And then I just waited. Not for them, but for the fallout. First day after, I get a call from my mom. She's heard bits and pieces, mostly from my aunt, and she's got that tone like she's bracing for drama. I tell her, yeah, it's real. I don't go into details. I just say, they did what they did. I'm out. End of story. She says she's sorry, then asks if Leroy can stay at her place for a night or two. I say, that's your call, but don't ask me to bail him out. She sighs, says she understands. Classic mom, still trying to keep everyone talking. Even when there's nothing left to say, Ramona's stuff is gone by noon. Her mom picked it up, didn't say a word, just glared at me and loaded the car. I didn't bother saying anything back. I'm not the one hiding. Group chats are dead quiet, except for the one cousin who keeps sending me, you good? Texts. I just reply with a thumbs up. I don't need a pity party. I just want my apartment to stop smelling like her perfume. Leroy tries calling from like 3 different numbers, even tries to FaceTime. I block them all. He sends some long email about, you ruined my life and family means nothing to you, blah, blah, blah. I don't even reply. I forward it to my lawyer just in case, but I'm not giving him the fight he wants. He can scream at the wind for all I care. The legal side is honestly the easiest part. Lawyer calls me, says the divorce is moving fast. Ramona has no claim. Not with the prenup and all the receipts I gave him. She tries to contest it, but her signature's on the update. Her voice on the file. She gets nothing. No apartment, no cash, not a single thing. She's blowing up my phone at first, then switches to guilt trips, then just silence. Last I heard, she crashed at her mom's for a while, then moved in with some friend. Not my problem. As for Leroy, the business is dead. Landlord sent him a final bill for breaking the lease. He's on the hook for thousands. Suppliers are blowing up his phone. I know, because one of them called me by mistake, then apologized when I sent him the contract page showing Leroy's name. Family group chat is a mess. Everyone taking sides, but honestly, most people are just tired of his excuses. My dad calls to say he's had enough of the drama and tells me to focus on myself for once. I actually listen this time. The only real scene is a couple days later. I'm coming back from getting groceries, and Leroy's standing outside the building looking rough. Like, no sleep. Same hoodie as 2 days ago. He tries to stop me at the door, starts ranting about, how could you do this? Why would you throw your own family away? Etc. I don't even slow down, just tell him you did this, not me. He tries to block the door and I push past him, bags in hand. He tries to grab my arm and I shove him back. Not hard, but enough. He actually swings at the door as I close it. I lock it and put my headphones on. Neighbors saw, but nobody said a word. Not their circus, not their monkeys. Ramona shows up once more, bang on the door, full meltdown. She's crying, yelling, begging. I tell her through the door to leave or I'll call the building manager. She starts sobbing, says she made a mistake. I tell her, you made a choice, now live with it. She leaves, slamming the hallway door so hard I hear it 3 floors up. That's the last time I see her in person, the rest is just clean up. I open new accounts, change passwords, block them everywhere. I move what's left of her stuff out, repaint the living room, Buy new pillows, change the sheets. Little things, but it helps. I don't go on some healing journey or whatever. I just live. I order pizza, I doom scroll, I go for walks. It's not a movie, it's just real life picking up. Where it left off, people keep asking if I'll ever talk to them again. IDK, maybe one day, if I'm bored and want to see how rock bottom looks up close. Probably not. They still try sometimes. Ramona sent a DM from a burner account. Leroy called my dad asking for money. I just block, delete, move on. No revenge fantasies, no closure. Talks, just nothing. They don't get to be characters in my life anymore. Funniest thing is, people around me keep acting like I should feel bad, like, aren't you lonely? Or, don't you miss her? Or, family is family. I just shrug. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by snakes. If that makes me the bad guy, then whatever last thing I'll say, for anyone who's where I was, you don't have to forgive anyone who spits in your face. You don't owe them a conversation. You don't have to make yourself smaller so they can feel big. Do what's right for you. And if you ever wonder if you're being too harsh, just remember how easy it was for them to laugh at you when they thought you were asleep, that's it. No epiphany, no, and then I found love again nonsense. Just me, my apartment, and peace for the first time in years. Thanks for reading if you're still here, appreciate you. Hope you never need advice like this, but if you do, don't play nice, trust me.
Ex-wife left me and our kids for a high-paying job and divorced me after we moved into a new city. 1 month later she found herself in a horrible situation and begged me to come back. About 7 months ago, Emma, my ex-wife, 42F and I'm 44M, moved away for her new job. She had been offered an upper management position in a company that she had applied to without my knowledge, and the reason she had done so was because she knew that I would never agree to move away. We had been together for 12 years, married for 10, and we have 8-year-old twins together. Both our families are situated here, and a few years ago, my father was diagnosed with leukemia. Since then, it's been very difficult for our family because my dad's health hasn't been great and we are always afraid of when we might lose him. Naturally, as his only son, I want to be here for him and also for my mother, and so, I hadn't wanted to move away after my dad's diagnosis. I thought that Emma would understand what I was going through, but instead, she told me that I was being a little too sensitive and that I can't just keep turning down opportunities to work out of state and expect her to do the same just because my dad was sick. Before my dad fell sick, we had actually been planning to move away because she wanted a change of pace, but after my father's diagnosis, I told her that it would not be possible for me anymore. She tried to be understanding of it in the beginning, but gradually, since last year or so, she had started to become very restless, and we had been fighting quite frequently over this. She wanted to move away because she felt stuck here, and I couldn't possibly think about moving away while my dad was in such a condition, especially since it would also mean having to leave my mother to deal with it all on her own. Even if I had had any siblings, I wouldn't have been able to leave because my conscience wouldn't have let me. And I kept trying to explain that to Emma, but she refused to see my point, and I just felt like she was being selfish, whereas she felt like I was the one being selfish. And then, earlier this year, she just came home from work one day and told me that she had applied for a high-paying position in a company outside of state and she got the job. That came as a shock to me, and I wanted to be happy for her, but I just couldn't because she hadn't told me anything about this application or this job. I was kind of in shock, so I just congratulated her and then I said nothing. That day, I remember we got into an argument because she didn't think I was happy enough for her, even though it was a pretty big deal because I have to admit, it was a good job with decent pay. However, I was just upset that you hadn't even thought that she needed to talk to me about it before applying, and she told me that she didn't even think that she would get the job, but now that she had it, she was thinking of moving away and she wanted me to come along with her. She wanted to relocate our entire family, knowing what my feelings on this were. So we ended up fighting over that, and it was one of our worst fights. It got so bad that she ended up leaving to go stay with her parents for a couple of days, and we had no contact for those days, so I actually thought that she was going to file for a divorce and put an end to this. But then, she came back home and we ended up deciding that we were going to try and patch things up between us because we still had the kids and we couldn't let them down. And back then, I thought that I could still make it work with her because I didn't want to let go of this marriage. I was sure that I loved her, and she told me that she did too, which is why she wanted to make it work. But she also didn't want to give up on her dreams, and so, after a lot of discussion, we decided that she was going to take up the job and I would stay back here. She told me that she was going to try and travel back and forth as often as she could, so we could make this work. We had no other option but to choose a long-distance marriage for now, since neither of us was ready to give up on each other. It was hard for me to agree, but I had to do it, at least for a while, before we could figure out what we wanted to do in the future. So then, she left and she would come back home every alternate weekend, but even then, she would only get to spend 2 days with us and take a flight back on Sunday evening since she would have to be back for work every Monday. It was tiring for her and I knew it, but there was nothing that I could do since she had agreed to this arrangement. With time, I guess she started resenting me, and her attitude towards me got worse. We had promised each other that we were going to try and make this work, but every time that I would try to call her during the week, she would always be really mean to me and we would inevitably end up arguing about something or other. After a certain point of time, it started feeling like she didn't even want to speak to me, and instead of calling her on my own, I started waiting for her to call me first. And then, we started speaking less to each other, and even when we would talk, it was always very cold and weird, and I didn't know what to make of it. Then, eventually, after having spent almost 4 months away, she came home one weekend and had divorce papers with her. At the time, things were really tense between us and she told me that she couldn't do this anymore. When she came back home that weekend, we hadn't spoken for almost 6 days in a row because of the argument that we had the last time that we spoke. And I wanted to come up with a reason not to get a divorce, but I couldn't come up with anything. Because the last fight that we had was one where she had actually thrown out the idea of separating and ending this marriage for good. I should have seen that coming because for months, not only had we been fighting, but she had also been getting closer to a certain friend of hers from high school. This friend, let's call her Melissa, was not a good person and was an even worse influence. Emma had always been good friends with Melissa and that woman had even been there as a bridesmaid at our wedding, but I had never liked her because she had always given off a weird vibe. From what I knew about her, she was a total gold digger and always went after rich married men so she wouldn't have to commit to them, but would still get the benefits of being with a rich guy. She would even brag about it as if what she was doing wasn't detestable enough. When I used to bring up her behavior with Emma, she used to tell me that it was her personal choice and that we shouldn't judge her. That was quite infuriating, so eventually, I just stopped talking about Melissa and decided to ignore that friendship altogether. It got easier eventually because after Melissa moved away, and Emma got caught up with work and kids, they kind of drifted apart. Anyway, I had known that Melissa had also been living in the same state with her son for a couple of years since she had moved away after her second divorce, probably to scout for new prey. Coincidentally, when Emma got a job in the same state, she reached out to Melissa and she was the one who introduced her to the city and helped her move in and stuff along with me. I was there all along, and I had hoped that maybe Melissa would have sobered up after so many years, but she was still the same weird person. I was not comfortable with Emma being so close with Melissa once again, but she was the only friend that Emma had there, so I couldn't even say anything about it. In the months that Emma had been staying there, she had told me that Melissa had been really supportive of her since she was on her own and had even introduced her to a couple of her own friends. This so-called group that Melissa had introduced Emma to was very dicey because as far as I remember, it was 3 or 4 women who were all single mothers. They had met through Facebook and had a Facebook support group kind of thing together. From whatever Emma had told me, these women had all been with men and had kids with them, but due to a variety of reasons, their partners had abandoned them and now, they were raising their kids on their own and the only support they got was a child support check. However, it was not as sad as it sounds because most of the women that Melissa was friends with were just like her. They had gone for super rich men, had affairs with them, got pregnant, and then when these men had decided to stay with their wives and families, these women managed to get them to pay a big fat child support check from them which supported their lifestyle. It actually wasn't just a support for them, it was also payment for them to keep their mouths shut since I'm assuming these men didn't want word of their affairs getting to their wives. It was very common for all of them to have some online business that nobody was really interested in, but they were self-employed and wanted people to believe that they were doing it all on their own. But in reality, they were running a scam and proudly called themselves independent women who had all the freedom in the world to live by their own rules, while living off of the money of men who had been stupid enough to fall into their traps. Emma thought it was funny, but I thought it was disgusting and I didn't think that it was a good idea for her to be socializing with them. However, she kept defending her friends and told me that she had gotten to know them personally and they were all really nice women. And given how we were already fighting about so many things, I didn't want to fight about that as well, so I didn't say anything. But then, in the last fight that we had before she filed for a divorce, she told me that she really admired Melissa's strength because even without any help from any man, she was raising her 2 kids brilliantly on her own. I ended up scoffing at that and I told her that anybody who makes as much money from getting pregnant after an affair with rich guys would also probably be taking good care of the kids since that was not their child but a meal ticket for them. And that was what led to a huge blow-up fight between us because before that, we had been trying our best to keep a lid on our tempers but the frustration had just been building up for months and that day, that little disagreement over one thing was enough to set us both off. We started cursing at each other, telling each other exactly how much we hated the situation, and just kept blaming each other. After one point, she just said that if we were just going to fight like this all the time, it was probably better for us to go our separate ways and then disconnected the call. I thought she didn't mean that and I thought that she was going to call me and apologize, but that never happened. And I was really upset with her as well, so I didn't bother to reach out either. That weekend, she showed up with the divorce papers and I decided to go ahead with it because I couldn't find a reason to stay with her anymore either. We had tried our best to make it work, but it didn't, unfortunately. And even the kids, the ones we were supposedly staying together for, hardly got to see us together and even when we were together, we were not happy. So rather than letting them grow up in a toxic environment, we decided to get a divorce. The divorce process was relatively simple since we don't have a waiting period here in our state and we only had to divide our joint assets, which was simple enough. I got to keep the house and the kids since she didn't want to take them away with her right now and said that at the moment, we could stick to our arrangement of her coming back here every weekend to meet them. We had been splitting the cost of raising them anyway, so we continued to do that. Once they were a little older, we would leave it up to them what they wanted to do. It was not convenient for either of us, but we didn't want to fight for custody since we believed that our kids deserved both of us in their lives. As for the house, we had a verbal agreement that we would put it up for sale in a few years and whenever it sold, we would split the money. Anyway, the divorce was finalized about a month ago and I didn't think that she would speak to me after that because even while we were getting divorced, we hardly had anything to talk about outside of the meetings with our lawyers. Now that everything had been finalized, I was trying to cope with the situation since even though it actually felt like nothing had really changed since we were still going to stick to the same routine, life was definitely going to be pretty different for me now because I was no longer married to Emma. My kids were also very confused about what was going on, so I had to explain to them that their mother and I were no longer together, even though nothing exactly had changed. But last night, she decided to call me up again so we could sort things out between us and give our relationship another chance because apparently, she had made a huge mistake and she wanted to reverse the divorce. I could tell that she had been crying and she was pretty much hysterical on the phone call. She started ranting about how she had unintentionally glamorized the lifestyle that Melissa and her friends had been leading, and because of that group, she had decided to file for a divorce. She hadn't mentioned it to me earlier because she knew how I felt about Melissa, but after that last fight that we had, she had spoken to her group of friends, and they had told her to go for a divorce. She had been skeptical about it initially, but they talked her into it, so she spoke to a lawyer that they put her in touch with. But 1 month has passed since then and she has tried literally to get herself to move on, like dating apps and blind dates and even going out every other night, but has only ended up hooking up with random people, and that has only made her feel pathetic because at least with me, even when we were fighting, she knew that she loved me and I loved her. Now, she's just really lonely, and more than anything else, she also misses the kids. Her friends told her that this would pass, but she hasn't been able to get rid of the loneliness and the guilt after the divorce. On top of that, her company had been doing pretty well when she joined, but she has had several pay cuts since then because apparently, they had kind of embellished how well they were doing to get her on board, and her income now doesn't match what she had been offered initially. It's not just her, everyone in the company has been going through the same thing, and they keep telling people that things will work out if they keep working hard, but she thinks it's just so that they can retain their employees, and that's another part of the reason why she wants to come back to me. She said that she really wanted me to consider it and reverse the decision to get divorced because she just misses her family and what her life used to be. But after she was done talking and explaining her situation to me, I just felt furious with her because I couldn't believe that she had allowed her stupid and immoral friends to talk her into getting a divorce. I had always warned her against Melissa, and I had also made it very clear that I didn't like the company she was keeping after she moved away, but she never paid any mind to me. And now, they had turned out to be the reason that she ended up making the decision that she did. Had it been her own mistake, I might have even been all sympathetic towards her, but the fact that she had chosen to listen to people that I hated, really got on my nerves. The audacity to call me up and start crying about all of these things as if it had all been very easy for me, just made me very upset, and I ended up snapping at her. And now she had to lie in it because I was not going to help her out here. In spite of everything, I had tried my very best to make this marriage work. And I'm not talking about the last few months, I'm talking about ever since my dad fell sick. I had been fighting for our marriage relentlessly, and for a while, so had she, but she had been immensely selfish for the past couple of years, and that's how we had ended up here, divorced. The least she could have done while she had been staying away was at least try to understand my feelings and situation, but she allowed herself to get carried away by friends whom she knew I did not like. I told her that she was not a high school kid anymore and that a juvenile excuse like her friends had influenced her to make bad decisions was not going to work with me. She wasn't coming back home drunk to her parents. This was a very different situation, and it had affected my life and even the kids. And now, just because it's inconvenient for her, she wants to reverse the divorce. Firstly, of course, that's not how it works, and secondly, even if it did, I wouldn't do it. I was really upset by everything she had told me right before that, and I just couldn't hold back. So I told her that now, if she was feeling really lonely and guilty, then she should just ask her friends for help, because I'm sure if they were the ones who had encouraged her to file for a divorce, they cared about her enough to take her in, if she was not doing well financially, and support her emotionally as well. I was also very annoyed by the fact that she had basically just confessed that she had been hooking up with random people for the past month after our divorce. Technically, she was single, so she was allowed to do whatever she wanted, but it made me feel really uncomfortable and depressed because I felt like it had cheapened whatever we had shared for the past 12 years. So I told her that I did not want her back in my life anymore, especially after the things she had just told me, and that I was going to make sure that the kids stayed with me because I was not sure if she was a good influence on them anymore. She started crying even harder and told me that she was ready to do anything it took to make things right, but I told her that she had made a decision and she had to live with it, and the kids, and I did not need her anymore. Then, I hung up and blocked her. When I woke up this morning, I had several messages from my ex-in-laws, and they were telling me that I shouldn't have said the things that I did because she was already really low and it was not nice of me to kick her when she was down. They said that it was not necessary because she was already regretting everything that she had done and seemed to try and punish her more by telling her that the kids and I did not need her. I wouldn't have cared about what my ex-in-laws say, but they have been very kind to me after the divorce, so I don't know. Ida for telling my ex-wife that I don't want her back and that the kids and I don't need her anymore. Update 1. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for all the support that you guys have shown for me in the comments. I don't know how to say it, but it really means a lot to me, knowing that so many people are on my side here. And it means even more to me that so many of you have identified with my story and have reached out to let me know that things are going to be alright. It's very kind of you guys and I know that things are going to get better. It has been 4 days since I posted and I had blocked Emma after we had that conversation, so she hasn't been able to get in touch with me. But this weekend, she is supposed to come over to see the kids and spend some time with them, so I don't know what's going to happen then. For the past couple of months, ever since the divorce was initiated, she would just pick up the kids from my place and go to her parents' place to spend the weekend with them and occasionally spend some time here with all 4 of us for some family bonding. But mostly, she would try to stay away from me and I was fine with it because it just made things easier for me. This weekend, though, it's anybody's guess. I'm actually kind of dreading having to see her because her parents have been very upset with me and have told me that the things that I said to her were so harsh that she has ended up crying every single time that they have called her after that. I haven't been responding to any of their messages because I don't really know what to say to them, but I feel kind of bad because I know Emma is kind of a really non-emotional person and I know that I really managed to hit her where it hurts because she's been crying so much. Even though she hasn't exactly been kind to me and our circumstances haven't been the best, I still feel really sad for her because we could have had a great life and I feel like she ruined it all for herself. I did my best to make it work, but it's not like I can make the marriage work on my own without any help from her. I don't know what to say anymore, to be honest. Update 2. So Emma came over yesterday to pick up the kids and we ended up having a discussion about everything that had been said. It was clear from her appearance that she had been having a very hard time and I could see it on her face and I found it really hard to be cold to her. So then she asked me if I would be willing to talk to her just for a bit, and I ended up agreeing. Once the kids were in their room, we got to talking and she told me that she was really sorry about everything. And she wasn't referring to the recent months, she was referring to the past couple of years because it had taken a lot for her to realize how selfish she had ultimately been, and she even said that she did not deserve me. She told me that in the past few weeks, after the divorce, every time she would go out on a date or hook up with any guy, all she could think was how she wasn't sure if this was the kind of life that she wanted for herself and felt guilty for throwing it all away. She had built it up all in her head, but it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, and when she realized that, it was too late for her to do anything about it because she had already lost me. While talking, she started crying again, and I tried to come for her, but she told me that it would only make her feel worse because that just made her realize the kind of person I was and how badly she had treated me. It was kind of bittersweet, hearing her say these things about me because I would have really appreciated that when we were together, but now, I don't know what to say about it. Anyway, after a while, she told me that she had decided to quit her job and move back here so she could be closer to her family. She also wanted to spend more time with the kids because she had already been losing out on so much time with them. It didn't seem worth it to stay outside for such little money and sacrifice so much. The only request she had for me was that she wanted me not to file for full custody like I had said I would, and I told her not to worry about it. I had said it in the heat of the moment, but I didn't have any intention of actually doing it because both she and I had always maintained that our kids shouldn't have to suffer and I knew that they missed their mom. So spending some more time with her would definitely do the kids more good and I would be supportive of that as well. After we were done talking, she apologized to me for everything once again and told me that I was a good man. She also promised me that she was going to try and be a better mother and a better person and thanked me for even letting her speak to me after everything that happened instead of just shutting the door in her face. That got me a little emotional, but I didn't say anything and then she left with the kids. So that was it, and I didn't actually expect things to turn out to be like this since I thought that she was going to come over and fight with me, but this was nice and unexpected. She has apologized and I'm not gonna say that I forgive her and everything is in the past, but at least we are on the right track now. I don't think I can go back to her again. That's very unrealistic after everything that has happened, but the least we can do is try to co-parent our kids to the best of our abilities and make it as peaceful for them as possible. And of course, it will be better for us as well. Now let's see what the future holds. Update 3. Hey, guys. Okay, so 4 months have passed since my divorce, and after my last update, Emma stayed true to her word, and within a few weeks, she quit her job and moved back here. Since then, our kids had been splitting their time between the two of us. They spend half the week at my place and the other half at their mother's, and it's been pretty convenient for them till now. Emma had been with her parents for a couple of weeks initially, but then, she was able to find an apartment a few blocks away and the kids are having a lot of fun because they have 2 homes now. As for my ex-in-laws, we are back on normal terms. Of course, we don't speak to each other on a regular basis, but they have apologized to me for bothering me back when Emma was having her breakdown, and they told me that it was not my fault, but as her parents, they were just really stressed out and they ended up blaming it on me because it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Emma and I are also back on decent terms. I wouldn't say good terms because it's not like we are friends, but we are cordial with each other and have kept things civil. I'm also slowly but surely moving on and trying to process everything that has happened, and it's going well so far, and I'm hoping that it continues to get better after this as well. Discovered that 4 out of my 5 children, aged 33F, 30F, 28M, and 14F, are not mine. Wife, 51F, won't give me answers. Note, please do not use ancestry kits as a paternity test. If you genuinely want to check your child as your own, get a proper paternity test at your local medical lab. Ancestry tests are not accurate, and should not be used to test paternity. In my case, it simply raised the alarm to get a proper test. I apologize if this is not an appropriate sub to ask. I posted this on r/relationships, but it was locked, and the mod suggested I ask on r/parenting. But I also want relationship advice on how to deal with my wife, so I want to ask for advice here, too. First of all, I'm sorry if this ends up being long and rambly. I am not really in the best state of mind. My world has been turned upside down over the last couple of weeks. I just want to write as much context as possible so I can get the best advice needed. For obvious reasons, I am not yet comfortable talking about this with my friends/parents/siblings. Background: I met my wife when we were in high school and we married in college. We have 5 beautiful children together. Really, I consider them a total blessing regardless of what I'm about to bring up, and up until a couple of weeks ago I thought that we had the perfect marriage. We were typical high school sweethearts. We go out together, we never fight. I feel like I've done everything a loving husband should do. I am saying this not to make myself out as the perfect husband. For example, my work has always meant I work long hours and maybe haven't always been there when she needed me, but I want to stress that I've never felt our marriage was in any trouble. And never in a million years would I ever have suspected my wife of being disloyal. She's always done everything she could to support me and take care of our children. Now, my eldest daughter recently had an ancestry test done. And the results of the ancestry test strongly suggested I was not her father. She confided this to me privately, showing me the results, and I could tell she was visibly upset by this. Of course, the first thing I did was reassure her that no matter what, she's my daughter and I'll always love her unconditionally. But secondly, the two of us decided to get an official paternity test since the ancestry tests are not completely reliable. It comes back and I am indeed not her biological father. This news really broke me. I'm ashamed to say I broke down in tears in front of my daughter. The combination of finding out about my wife's infidelity and how upset I was making my daughter by how I was reacting. I really wish I had kept it in for her sake, but I didn't. Following this, I asked my other children, except my youngest, to come and see me. I wanted to know the extent of my wife's infidelity. If it was a one-off, I could maybe work past it, especially given how long ago it would be. However, I didn't want to tell my youngest as she is still in school, a teenager, and really I didn't think it was appropriate to tell her yet. We tell the other 3 what has happened. I reassure them that I love them unconditionally and that I'll always be their dad, but that I need to know how long this has been going on. God, I can't begin to explain how touching their reaction was. They didn't care I wasn't their biological father, they were just upset at how heartbroken I was. I feel like the only thing that has kept me going these last couple of weeks is their unwavering support. So we have paternity tests for each of the 3 done. Not only are none of them my biological children, together 4 of my children have 3 different fathers. Which somehow made it worse. It's like, she wasn't just having an ongoing affair, she was having multiple? I can't explain how this make it worse, but it just does. So I confront my wife with this, expecting her to confess and beg for forgiveness. She doesn't confess. She doesn't even take it seriously. She says the tests must be flawed. All 4? How the hell am I supposed to take that seriously? I keep bringing it up and she keeps brushing it off, getting progressively more annoyed at me. When I bring it up, she will try and guilt trip me. We've been together since high school, do you seriously not trust me? Etc. But how am I supposed to trust her in the face of such overwhelming evidence? Now that I have rambled and explained what has happened, I guess let me ask a few direct questions for advice. How can I reassure my children this doesn't change anything between us? I feel like the way I have reacted, total breakdowns, has made them second guess this despite however many times I reassure them. How do I handle my youngest daughter? I feel like our marriage is beyond saving, and I will need to tell my daughter something. I don't want her to know the truth until she's older, but I also don't want my wife lying and making me out to be the villain. Is there any way at all, you think I could or should save my marriage? I've been with my wife my entire life. It's almost impossible to see a life without her. I know that the answer should be a clear-cut leave her, but we have 5 kids together. If there's anything that can be done to save our marriage, I want to consider it seriously. Edit. Thanks so much to everyone for all the support and advice. I have not replied to as many comments as I should have, but I've read each and every one and taken your advice to heart. I'll continue reading any comments or messages you send me. Again, I can't begin to thank you for all your support. If this is resolved, I might post an update, but if she continues to lie, then I don't think I'll bother, as there's not much more I can add. From the advice in this and the r/parenting thread, I've decided to Get second tests just in case some freak accident has occurred. Confront my wife with all 4 of my older children present. Tell my youngest of the situation. Ask her if she wants to have a paternity test. It will be entirely her decision. I'm 100% going to get some form of therapy. My mental state has really been deteriorating over the last couple of weeks, and I owe it to my kids to hold it together. Depending on whether my wife tells the truth, and what her explanation is, if any, I have not ruled out some form of counseling. But at the moment I think divorce is inevitable unless she changes her attitude drastically. Contact a lawyer and prepare for divorce, if it comes to that once again. I'd like to thank all of you for the time you took to express your support and share advice. Edit 2. I guess I should clarify some things that people have been asking. How do the ancestry results suggest I wasn't her father? My family is entirely Irish. No relatives outside of Ireland other than my immediate family, and I even have the stereotypical red hair. My daughter's ancestry results showed nothing from the British Isles/Western Europe/Northern Europe. That's what set off alarm bells, but it's by no means conclusive, hence the paternity tests. Which 2 children share the same father? My 2 eldest daughters share the same father. How did your wife conceive your children? Our eldest daughter was not planned. All the others were planned. Each time we conceived several months after we started trying. Our first 3 planned children were both our ideas, while she pressured me into having our youngest. She was in her late 30s and wanted one last child before it was too late, and eventually I agreed. She was conceived several months after we started trying, too. Are you infertile? I don't know. I've never had a fertility test done. But the fact that none of our planned children are mine makes me think that I might be. I will have a fertility test as soon as possible. Oop also posted the same post in our /parenting and our /relationships, but both instances were removed. Overall, commenters in all 3 subreddits were encouraging Oop to tell his youngest, consult a lawyer before confronting his wife, and trying another paternity test in case the first one was wrong. All of the important questions and suggestions are addressed in the edits to the original post. First update, April 2, 2019, posted in Oop's profile. I have received a lot of messages/comments asking about an update, and countless. Remind me comments, I am unsure how they work, but I assume they are also after an update. I will post an update, but it will not be anytime soon. This entire mess will take a long time to, well, make any sense out of. I don't know when I will post an update, but it will be weeks from now at a minimum, if not months. But I promise it will come eventually. Once again, thanks for the tremendous support everyone has shown me. Second and final update, March 1, 2020, also posted on Oop's profile. I have been debating whether or not to post an update, because nothing was ever resolved. I decided I would post it here in case anyone is still waiting for one. I apologize for not updating early when I promised I would dot my kids and I confronted their mother shortly after making that Reddit post. It really didn't go well. I think the prospect that no one believed her finally hit home, because she completely broke down and apologized profusely, but refused to explain herself, or anything that would give myself peace of mind. For the next few weeks we barely said a word to each other. I was hoping she was thinking it over, and I expected her to eventually sit me down and explain herself. I figured she was so far deep in a lie that got out of control, she needed time to think things over. Nope. I came home one evening to find she had committed suicide by overdosing. So I lost the love of my life, and I'll never know what mistakes she had made. I really wish I could go back in time and forget about it all. Whatever mistakes she made, I honestly wanted to work through it, and now I'm just riddled with guilt that I pressed her for an answer. The worst part of this entire ordeal was watching my kids work so hard to keep me together, after having lost their mother. Anyway, please tell your family you love them while you have the chance. On to the next story. Story 2. My 53M daughter, 15F, is pregnant. How do I tell her that our older daughter, 31F, is actually her biological mother? Before I start telling this story, please take a moment and try to understand this image, since this is extremely crucial to understand the whole story. So me, 53M, and my wife Rose, 53F, had our older daughter Sarah, 31F, when we were 22. We were young and broke, but managed, and now we raised Sarah the best we could. She got pregnant at 15. It was a very depressing time for her. She had to go to therapy, and never told us anything about the father, which always upset her, so we never pushed the issue. She originally wanted to terminate, but kept canceling, and eventually told us she wanted to give her up for adoption. But 5 months into the pregnancy, when she was discussing with a social worker for a couple to adopt, the couple dropped out of the adoption. After trying to find more couples, Sarah asked us if we wanted to adopt. Me and Rose were both 38 at this point, and we had both been discussing having another child, so we ended up adopting our daughter Ellie when Sarah had her at 16. 2 years after Ellie, me and my wife had our son Logan, 13, biologically. Growing up we always planned on telling Ellie she was adopted, but we knew with telling her that, we had to tell her Sarah was her bio mother. Sarah never became close with Ellie, not even as C-tears. She moved out after the birth and lived with Rose's sister. She has always shown sisterly love to her Logan, but never towards Ellie. There has always been conflicting feelings with Sarah. I have seen posts on Sarah's Instagram where she posted a picture of what was supposed to be the 5 of us, but Ellie was cut out. I confronted her about this and she says it's too painful. However, a couple years ago she showed up drunk begging us to let us see her daughter. We talked to her and let her stay but did not let her near Ellie since she was drunk. We found out from her husband she had suffered several miscarriages and was told to consider a surrogate. She ended up doing that 4 years ago and has since had twins Jack and Jill, 3M and F, who are biologically hers. Ellie has loved being an aunt to the twins and Sarah has encouraged this with Ellie, and has been inviting Ellie over her house for family time with Logan, who loves being an uncle. We have asked Sarah that in light of the twins, and Ellie being close to them, wouldn't it be time to tell Ellie the truth, but Sarah keeps claiming she is not ready. Recently Ellie came to us and has told us she is pregnant. This time it is a completely different situation. We have met the father, he is a childhood friend of hers and they decided they wanted to lose their virginities to each other. We had the talk with Ellie long ago, as we did with Sarah. We approached the situation calmly and have since met with the father and his parents. Ellie is insistent on keeping the baby. She is 3 months along. We have not told Sarah yet, we do not know how to approach the situation, we don't know how she will be able to take it. Me and my wife are considering telling Ellie the truth but we need Sarah to be there. Relevant comments from Oop. Hauntedu, did you ever consider Sarah was raped and that's why she never told you about the father, wanted to terminate, and is incredibly distant from her daughter because she is the offspring of a rapist? Just a passing thought. OP, yes she has never said anything but we have always suspected that is what happened, her therapist would be the only person who knows but whatever is said stays between them. Lion Avon, please discuss contraception with your son if you haven't already. Also, why is her being pregnant a nudge to tell her she is your other daughter's biological child? Wouldn't that be a bit much just this second? OP, yeah we might hold off on telling her, but at the same time we don't know how Sarah will react finding out Ellie is pregnant. We have had the talk with all 3 of our children about contraception, they didn't want to use protection the first time, and thought being careful would not risk pregnancy. Transportation Fund 219, I did think this straight away, wonder what will happen when one of them does off-the-shelf DNA test, probably will happen at some point. OP, I would not do a DNA test without Ellie knowing anything, because if Sarah was assaulted I would not want him around Ellie. Update, November 7, 2023. So I decided to write in an update as I'm still getting messages on this account. First I want to address the main issue. I was wondering about advice on what to do after finding about my daughter Ellie 15 is pregnant, but that we had the exact same situation with her older sister Sarah 31, who is actually Ellie's biological mother. Well, I decided to just focus on helping out Ellie, who is 4 months pregnant. We didn't want to stress her out by telling her about the adoption yet. In fact, we know we should have already told her a long time ago, despite Sarah's emotions on the matter. It's not like we even knew the details on Ellie's father, so that would have been Sarah's talk, but we as Ellie's parents still should have told her the truth when she was younger. A week after I made the post Ellie told family about the pregnancy. She had since told my parents, her boyfriend's grandparents, and then of course, she has told Sarah. Sarah didn't react well, but told her she would support her. Of course Sarah reached out to us after, very upset, but said she was ready to talk to Ellie, first about the adoption with us, and she said that she wanted to tell Ellie about her father alone. We sat down and had the discussion. Ellie was of course upset, but calmed down after a while. She of course had questions about her father. Sarah had that discussion with her. At the time I didn't know what she was told, and it was none of our business, but Ellie told us she knows who he is, and said she didn't want to reach out, so we moved on after that. The other day I got a call from my sister-in-law Renee, 31F, my brother's wife. She was angry and was asking what kind of sick ideas was Sarah putting in Ellie's head. She started mentioning stuff about Ellie's adoption, so after I got her to calm down she told me what happened. She claimed that Ellie had messaged my brother Ethan, 32, and told him about the adoption and wanted to talk to him. This confused me because me and Ethan don't talk much, we were never really close because we are 21 years apart. He was my mother's late child and he always got along with mine and our sister's kids as they were all around the same age, and Ellie only saw him on the holidays, so telling him about the details in her life didn't make sense. Renee explained to me that Ellie claimed that Ethan was her father because that is what Sarah had told her and told him that he was going to be a grandpa. I had to sit down for a while. I called Sarah and we had a long conversation. She told me that yes, it was true that Ethan is Ellie's biological father. Sarah and Ethan were close when they were young, they were only 8 months apart. Sarah says that when they went thought puberty feelings changed and that every time she went to her grandmother's they would hide away from everyone and have their own time. Sarah was upset talking about this but told me that he never assaulted her and that it was always consensual. She never wanted to tell me because she was ashamed of the fact that the father of her baby was her uncle. I have since talked to Ethan as well. He denied it to Ellie over text but told me that it was true. We exchanged a few words back and forth. Even if this was consensual, how could he sleep with his own niece? He had all these but I wasn't hearing it. He knew of the pregnancy and being Ellie's father the whole time, and he never even bothered to step up to say anything. I have talked to Ellie about it. She says she was upset when she found out, but she always thought she looked like my stepdad's side of the family. It upset me when she mentioned that because honestly I see it, it's pretty obvious now. I always knew that Ellie favored whoever her father was because she didn't look like anyone on our side, but I never suspected Ethan. My mother and stepdad have found out and Ethan told Renee it was true. She has left with their kids to stay with her family. Ethan has tried to reach out to Ellie now but I don't want her speaking to him. I'm still her father and I don't think she is safe being in touch with him. Ellie has shown no interest in talking. I asked her why she reached out to him before talking to Sarah or us about it, and she said she just wanted to know his side of the story, but feels betrayed for being lied to. Relevant comments. Commentator asks about family tree to clarify up relationships. OP, I apologize, the reason I was so specific about it is cause it's the reason we have always been distant. My father died when I was 20, and we were all devastated. My mother was as well, but then told us months after my father died she was pregnant by a coworker. They married 3 months before Ethan was born. Although we are distant, I'm the closest sibling who communicates. None of my sisters have anything to do with him. Gracie, Sarah should have fessed up at the start. Did Ethan know Ellie was his when she was adopted? Surely it was no surprise. How could he go 15 years living a lie? Sarah too. This is so messed up. OP, Ethan knew about being the father of Sarah's baby. He wanted Sarah to abort, which is why she wanted to abort in the beginning, but she decided on adoption. Crypto_gambler 952, maybe it's time that you older daughter do for her daughter what you did for her. OP, Ellie and her boyfriend fully intend on raising this baby as their own, with the support of me and my wife and his parents.